we're here with Bruno, your boxer and mascot.
Yep.
He always comes through when the camera starts rolling.
Yep. He's not camera shy, that's for sure.
No, he's definitely not that. I mean,
his attention spans are somewhat to be wanted, but let's leave that as that.
Yeah, that's, unlike us, we're entirely focused 24/7.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's what CopperFox is all about.
That's dead right.
So what's the topic?
So today we're going to talk about scaling down a business.
Scaling down a business.
So essentially, downsizing, potentially exiting a sector of the market, or perhaps retaining the entire offering but doing it on a smaller level.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, so sometimes it's a conscious decision that the business owner makes. Other times there are external factors that determine that.
Yep.
Loss of a key supplier or a key customer, or some sort of disruptor within the sort of the market segment. So
increased competition.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're losing market share, or a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. So in scaling your business down, what are some of the considerations? I mean, the starting point does have to be that good old business case, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah, I suppose it's. Yeah, I think it's a case of, if they can, they've got to take a step back and go, well, what's our best course of action? It depends on how urgent the action that they need to take needs to be taken. It could be that they've got a phone call and all of a sudden one of their strategic suppliers has pulled the plug on them, or disappeared completely, or for whatever, that could be quite dramatic, quite drastic.
Yeah.
And then that requires an immediate response somehow. Or it could be more driven internally. The owner just can't handle the stress anymore, is shifting to more of a lifestyle type, balanced life, doesn't really want to grow the business, doesn't necessarily want to hand it over to somebody else at this point in time, and so there's a conscious decision just to calm things down. Yeah.
So you're right. So under both scenarios, so there is situations where there's Houston, we've got a problem moment, and you need to react and get things sort of moving quite sort of quickly and effectively, as opposed to a sort of a more of a considered, managed way of downscaling the business through largely the business owner wanting different things.
And I think an important point here is that a lot of money can be wasted in scaling them down, by shooting at the hip type thing, as opposed to putting in a proper plan. The same way as that can apply to scaling up a business. You can waste a lot of resource, a lot of money, and a lot of time if you don't plan it properly, think through all the scenarios, and gear up in a way that is effective for the business to take advantage of whatever the opportunities are. So it can work both ways.
So sort of planning is not always possible when it is a sort of an urgent response to something outside the business. But regardless of the reason for the downsizing, communication is really critical, isn't it?
Yep.
Not just with employees, but with suppliers, the board of directors, key stakeholders, regulators in some instances.
Yeah, the banks.
Get that messaging out there. Front foot the communication.
Yep.
Use somebody that's specialist around getting those messages out there to ensure they're consistent and they're clear.
Where you've got certain customers that you want to hold on to, where you need to make sure that the services, the products, whatever it is that you are providing them is maintained at the standards that they're expecting from you, and then, like you say, that the communication is, hey, look, we're not going to operate in this space anymore, but we treat you as, or we consider you an important customer to our business, and we continue to support you in the way that hopefully it works for both of us.
Yeah.
Type scenario.
Yeah. So in the perfect world, there is some planning, although it's not sort of always possible. We've discussed communication and how important that is to ensure that everyone understands what's going on. Also applying a sort of a risk lens to the program, and ensuring that all sort of implications are well considered and to the extent possible mitigated, which is really important too. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and then it's what do you actually do to what do we mean by scaling down? Usually it means an adjustment to your cost base. It might be that you want to reduce the size of the space that you're occupying, so you need to sublet. It could be you don't need as many staff, so then that's when you've got to take a step back and go, right, well, who's critical to the day-to-day operation, both now and as we scale down. And quite often it's that middle management layer that's at risk. But even then, it's too basic to say middle management goes. You've really got to take a breath, take a step back, and go, who's still important to the business at this level as opposed to where we are at the moment.
So at high level, it's about balancing what's happening around the customer side, the front end of the business, with the business support function to ensure that as the business scales down, that it's fit for purpose and delivering the right sort of balance in service levels. So that's looking at facilities, looking at people. It's looking at sort of all aspects to the cost base of the business to ensure that it's fit for purpose.
Yeah, and I think that also means there may be some middle management there that's currently full time that you don't need full time anymore, and the option is they either go part time, so you scale down their time. So therefore, and that has an associated cost, connected with that, or you outsource certain services that it's a more economic model for the business to apply that as opposed to having a fixed full-time resource in-house if it's not justified.
So essentially, downscaling the business. We've discussed what it is and some of the reasons for it happening. It can be just a temporary situation to deal with some sort of major disruptor that's affecting the industry and the company. So it's like a temporary aberration to deal with the situation while it scales back up. It could be sort of downsizing and being a permanent intention to run the business at a lower level. Or thirdly, it could actually be as part of a longer term exit strategy, and that's another discussion for another time. But potentially that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah, and I think in the first case, then you'd look at shifting as much in the way of fixed costs to variable costs. You might not want to move out of your premise because, like you say, it's a short-term thing. But you might have, again, a review of your staffing and switch some of that to a more flexible resource as opposed to a fixed resource to accommodate that variability in the revenue. Because you just want to make sure that you're protecting your profitability and the cash flow. Yes. So that's adjusting where you can. Obviously, in the second scenario where it is a long-term downsizing or adjustment scaling down, then definitely you've got to look at your fixed costs and go, right, what can we get rid of or what can we reduce to match the future revenue streams that are going to come through. Particularly if your margins aren't going to change much. Then the only area where you can focus on is that fixed resource.
Yeah, good. Okay.
And then the third one was exit strategy.
Yep.
So what are you suggesting should be an approach around that for a business owner? Because that's more about the business owner itself. Yeah,
it is. So I think that's a dedicated section on itself. I think we should have a separate one on that.